Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm your host, Dr. Haider Shah. On behalf of Calvas, I would like to welcome all of you to this webinar. Thank you very much for joining us. Today we have another very interesting topic, and I'm really honored to welcome and introduce our distinguished guest speaker who is going to talk about writing book chapter and publishing in a reputable publisher. Whether you are an experienced author or just beginning your writing journey, today's session is designed to guide you through the process of crafting and compelling book chapter and navigating the complexities of publishing. We will cover the key strategies, practical tips, and industry insights to help you achieve publication success with a respectable publisher. So, indeed, a very interesting topic, and I'm sure you will learn a lot from this session as we have an expert with us in today's this session. So, stay tuned because an amazing stuff are coming ahead in this session. So, before we start, I would like to thank Calvas for arranging such enlightenment sessions, for their support and providing us such a wonderful platform. The aim of Calvas is to give you the opportunity to connect and interact with world renowned speakers, academic leaders, teachers, authors, researchers, experts, professionals, and businessmen to learn from their experiences, recommendations, suggestions, and tips which will create an impact and will enable you to learn and develop yourself in order to grow and transform individually as well as to contribute to the world in a positive way. As our slogan is come, learn, and share knowledge. So today we have an amazing person who's a multi-talented. We have invited him for multiple times to be on Carwas, and he is a great enough and wonderful speaker who is always ready to share his knowledge. And he's kind enough that he has given once again his consent to share his knowledge regarding this publishing book chapters knowledge. So, last but not the least, he's a wonderful speaker, author, teacher, researcher, professional, and above everything, a great human being. So, please help me in welcoming once again our guest professor, Dr. FROILAN MOBO. Welcome to the Calvas platform once again, and thank you very much for joining us, Prof.
Yes, thank you for inviting me once again, dear Dr. Haider. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and over to you, Prof. Thank you.
Yes, good evening around my dear friends around the globe. I was tasked for today to discuss about writing book chapters, and this is very important because a lot of authors, academicians really give this as one of an important tool when we write book chapters. So, first part on our discussion is writing book chapters. How do we write book chapters? So it's very important that while writing a book chapter, it may appear more difficult than writing a research paper because there's abilities are identical, but part of that, a book chapter is similar to writing a review and can be as short as a paper. So writing a chapter indicates a knowledge or writing style and skill in a research topic. But when we write book chapters, especially when we choose a topic, it is very important that we have to be more specific on the particular areas wherein we could be able to conduct later, be showing some topics or possible examples on how you would be able to write book chapters that can be accepted by a reputable journals and can be published in a reputable publisher, especially nowadays that book chapter plays an important role in uh, part of it. It says that there are three main steps to writing a good chapter. So of course, follow your concepts, your ideas, and outline it. It depends on what will be your forte. For example, in my case, I'm into IT and social science. So it depends on how it will fall and how it will flow. So staying on one point while writing until you have finished the concept and move on the next part. So you can also perform a comprehensive song edit in your book chapters, especially that you should be specific and novel when you write your book chapters because specifically this might be able to reflect as part of or possible future reference in other authors also if it will be accepted for publications in highly reputable publisher. For example, in there are so many book publishers that would be able to accept the possibility to publish your chapter. So it's very important that you have to follow the specific essential steps in writing your book chapter. Part of that, let us define what is an academic book chapter. Of course, an academic book chapters are sections or divisions of a chapter wherein it is typically divided by a number of chapters or title, wherein it can break down into many topics, into specific topics. Furthermore, each chapter in the book is linked to the general concept of the book, which is later I'm going to show to you some of my novel type writing, which is being published in a reputable publisher. So it allows the author to break down their works so that readers may understand how it is connected to that particular main topic. So chapter also help to structure your writing, allowing for a better flow of ideas. For example, what will be the specific topics in those particular main topics that may align, for example, for future research directions, other things that can give implications to the study, that is really helpful in coming up with that particular book chapter. And it's really very important that when we write book chapters, it should be specific enough to answer that particular main topics that you are want to point out. And how long should a book chapter be? Of course, based on the international standard, we could set it, however, on a approximately between sometimes it could be ranged from 3,000 and above words, along with each book contains 10 to 20 chapters, and the word limit for each chapter should be between 3,500 per chapter to 7,000 words per chapter. But for the book, it would range from 50,000 to 70,000 words for the book, just to clear up things. So per chapter, for example, if you're going to submit that in an IGI global publishers, I think what they want is their paper must be within 3,000 words to 7,000 words before it will be accepted. Because if it's less than 3,000, it will be automatically be rejected. While there are no set of guidelines for the length of book chapter, but it may differ based on the genre of your writing. However, it is best to follow the standard of the publishers that you want to create in your chapters accordingly. So it's very important that you should write it comprehensively, just like what I have mentioned a while ago, and follow the international standard, especially that if it will be indexed in a Scopus or a Web of Science, it is better to write it comprehensively and in a novel writing. And part of that, that you can differentiate between a book chapter and a thesis chapter, because a few book chapters that make up a book are what make it outstanding, because it may feature, of course, the specific areas that you want to consider. For example, the direction of your study, specific topics that may be able to help. Uh, of course, presenting or outlining those topics, particularly aligning to that uh, main topics, and mastering the skills of writing book chapters is crucial for creating an exceptional book, because you could simply write a book because you've already completed your study or your dissertation. However, when you write a book chapter that differs from a written thesis, there's a big difference. The graphic below illustrates areas when we do book chapters or a thesis chapter. So there's a big difference when you come up with a book chapter and a thesis chapter, because when you write a thesis chapter, it has a uh, uh, same main parts, but in different, but in they differ in on the parts of the book chapter, because it depends on how it will reflect the content. And part of that, the 7 steps to write the book chapter, according to other apprentices, of course, collate relevant information pertaining to your topic. For example, if the topic is about computer science, so it should relate on that for future research directions, other subtopics that could correlate on that, and then you can design the chapter structure based on the content and write an appealing chapter, which, like I have mentioned a while ago, it should be novel enough that it should can be specific, that can capture the uh, of course, the reader's attention, and it should be engaging one when you write. It should elaborate on main points of the chapter, summarize the chapter, and a call to action and transition on the next chapter that it may be connected. So, which means that if there is a future research directions, it might be able to connect that on the main topic, connecting on the next succeeding subtopics because that is interconnected. And of course, when we design that, you should always plan for an ideal, well structured chapter that contains the following elements. For example, a title or a heading, an interesting introduction that gives specific ideas, or a novel that want to explain other significance between previous studies and ongoing studies. Then the main body contains informative paragraphs, the summary of this chapter, and of course, that can have a smooth transition on the next chapter pertaining on how it will be connected. So, meaning topic by topic or chapters by chapters, it's interconnected, and it's very important to do that part. Then another is write an appealing chapter heading, which is how often you return a book to the bookshop. Is it depends on how you will be able to read on it. Then you could have read the most impacting chapter, which will be able to correlate on your studies. So, but it makes no sense that if the title is fascinating enough, it can captivate. So, just like what I am trying to say to you guys, it is very important that when we come up with a chapter, it should be appealing and can catch the author's attention, which is really, it gives an emphasis that you have come up with a novelty of writing and building engaging introductions that it's very important that you will be able to get the reader's interest ever and every expectations for the content should be there, should be specifically address that particular topics that is to keep people interested in your topic that may be able to cite them, and then you can uh, do a method or create a fictional scenario, however, that make, of course, careful to wander from main context of your chapter, and then from there it will assist you in providing an overview of your chapter. So, which means that to become more engagement in terms of writing an introductions in the group book chapter, it is really important that you should define specifically the content of your topics. So you can elaborate on the main points of the chapter that is, it can have an impactful title, and then an interesting introductions, and then it will be able to get into the chapter's specific sections, specific topics that can expand your introduction in detail and can discuss more crucially and detailed one, which is really novel enough when you write your book chapter. Part of that advantages of publishing that in an academic book chapter is that you should be able to know that if you're going to publish it in a well-known academic book publisher, for example, in an IGI, so it means that it has a credibility that your book chapter might be able to be index, or should I say cited, because knowing that kind of publisher sometimes is really well known because of its indexing, such as Web of Science or Scopus, which is really would be a big beneficial for us professors who are teaching in the field of academics. And it's very important that we should always consider the novel of writing, the purpose of why you have come up with that book chapter, and why write a chapter for a book? Because it is part of your career growth. Just like what we are doing in the Philippines, in our institution, in one of the state universities and colleges. Uh, Before you will be ranked into higher rank into the faculty, you must be able to come up with a research entitled paper, a book chapter, or any topics which is really connected to your specialization, and that is very important on the part. And that how does a chapter differ from an article? Of course, from article it has a uh, an exact subtopics parts per minute can identify the methodology. For example, the results in the discussion. While in a book chapter, it will give you a subtopics specifically on what subtopics it can guide you, discuss everything, for example, which can align to the specific title is being shown in a particular proposal. And of course, just like when you write a book chapter, just like in my case, the book chapters that we have collaboratively done and finished is more of the computer science, especially because nowadays, especially using technology, it really plays a vital role. So that's why we have came up in our mind, and of course with my group mate, that it's better to align it in your specific uh, specialization. And uh, before I end up, if you're interested, I would like to invite you for the upcoming educational research webinar this coming July 16 to 2024. If you're interested enough to participate in our webinar, because there will be a corresponding CPD points for this particular event. So, uh, just like what I mentioned, book chapter really plays a major role in writing your article, especially in university, in what where we are teaching. It really plays a major role. So once again, thank you for attending this insightful webinar, uh, discussing about the topic, uh, writing book chapters. So it's very important. So once again, thank you for attending. So we can now move on the questions and answer forum part. So thank you. With that, thank you once again, guys.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Froilan, for your wonderful and comprehensive session. I really like the way you just described what is the academic book chapter. You differentiated it from the traditional book chapters, and you showed the 7 steps, which was very important. And you highlighted the structure of the book chapter. That's the basic things which our audience they want to know. That what are the different steps we need to follow? What are the different structure, the design of the book chapter, because there is a lot of misconception regarding the academic book chapter, and you have very nicely talked about that what is the basic things which we need to consider as an author. And I love the way you included the advantages and disadvantages of publishing the book chapter, and your upcoming webinar things which are very important and very interesting. Thank you very much for sharing your wonderful insights and explaining very well. And now a few questions which needs your explanation. So we start with the first question. The first question they want to ask regarding the peer review, and the question is that what role does the peer review play in the publication of book chapters? Because book chapter goes through the peer review process. So they want to know the importance of the peer review process in the book chapter. Yes, please.
Just like in other journal publications, that is to ensure that the content of the book chapter will be really be substantial enough that it meets the standard of the publisher, especially on the part of this specialized editor on it, handling the specific topic. So it should be ideally it should be uh, met enough the requirements. For example, if the topics is pertaining to computer science, particularly, for example, in AI, it should be able to meet the aims and scope of that particular topic, so that again we could be able to come up with a quality book chapter that might be able to get some more insightful citations that will be able to increase the credibility, of course, of the publisher's site, and of course for the authors to help them for their academic journey.
Yeah, wonderful answer to the question. Thank you very much. And I think through peer review process, the quality improves, and it should go through the peer review process. Very nicely answered. Another question, very interesting question. They want to ask that, Prof, how do you select the right publisher for your work? Interesting question, since you have mentioned the IGI Global Publisher as well, which is a very renowned publisher. So, any tips for that person, please?
For example, when you select the right publisher for your work, for example, just like what I've done in my book chapter publications, the reason why I've selected that because IJ is a really a well-known publisher, and part of that, in terms of coming up with a quality and substantial output, even it's really quite challenging because when you submit that your paper, it will undergo peer review. Sometimes it will they will send back your proposal and you have to comply with the revisions. But it is really good enough because it means that the process is very stringent, and which means that they are really after with the quality, with the nobility of your topic, which means that it will be able to get index in, for example, in the Web of Science and Scopus, and we are aware that this indexing are really strict in terms of having a quality of output and write up.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you very much once again for clarifying it. One last question, which is again very interesting since you have written a lot of book chapters and you are involved in the book chapters. They want to ask the question regarding the that what are the some common challenges faced when writing a book chapter and how they can be overcome. So share your experiences, please. Thank you.
Just like what I've experienced in writing book chapters, especially if we submitted that in a highly recommendable publisher, for example, in IGI. Commonly, when the common challenge that you will be able to encounter is you should be specific enough when you come up with the content of your proposal. Otherwise, it will be rejected or it will be sent back to you to revise, and you have to comply with that. Those are the common problems that some of the authors, just like me and other authors, are. It's normal to experience some revisions on that part, which means that the more revisions that you will be able to encounter, the more of you are going to have a good quality output of your book chapter, which means that is more credible enough.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. Once again. And I think that is sufficient for today's this session because all of the questions, all of the most of the question you have already addressed in your wonderful presentation. And since you know, at the end of the session, we ask our each guest regarding their message to the world. So, what would be your message to the world this time as a speaker, author, teacher, researcher, trainer, learner, professional, and educator to the world? Yes, please.
Of course, my message to you, all of you, dear academicians and dear authors and researchers, is that uh, even we have a lot of challenges right now, don't stop in writing research book chapters. You have to continue on it. So you have to prove that you are really a researchers, a scientist, because that's how it goes. We have to evolve. We have to come up with a new topic that will be able to help our community, or, in terms of how it will be more sustainable enough when we do write-ups. It's very important to do it because it will address, of course, our socioeconomic problems that we have encountered.
Very nice. Thank you very much for your wonderful message to the world and to the audience that please do follow a distinguished guest speaker through his research work and you can email him for future learning and guidance. He is very generous and always ready to help the people. Uh, that's all we have time for today. And thank you once again, Professor Dr. FROILAN MOBO, for your precious time and sharing your wonderful insights to the world. You are kind enough that you are always ready to share your knowledge on multiple topics. And we are looking forward to have another wonderful session with you on another wonderful topic. And to the audience, I would like to thank you for joining us. And if you have any additional questions about the information shared today, please email us or connect to the speaker directly through his email or social media account. Thank you all for your support and liking our session. Stay tuned as many sessions are on the way. Please do not miss any session. Until next session, take care of yourself. Bye.